afternoon, everyone. I hope you all are having a wonderful week. It's bright and sunny today. In South Bend, that's rare, especially in the winter. So we have been discussing in the last few classes, just giving you a little brief flashback of what we have been doing. Thesis statement. We read a passage and then we try to develop 2-3 sentences that talks about the purpose of that whole passage or paper, the genre of that whole passage or paper, that previews conclusion, that sets up expectations, what's coming ahead. And most importantly, a thesis statement has a strong claim. And then we move to flow. And while talking about flow, we discussed how old to new progression, old concepts and then new concepts are developed, how we use head nouns, subjects, how we use repetition of keywords, demonstrative adjectives to maintain better cohesion and coherence, and definitely transition signals and pronouns. Then in the last class particularly, we read a few introductions from the book, especially one where we tried to find out move 1, 2, 3, 3 moves. We remember the 3 moves in introduction. In any introduction of a paper, there are 3 moves expected. First move is, anyone would like to say? Background, correct. Where we describe the background, the context of my paper in the introduction. The second move in the introduction is? The gap. We mentioned the gap. It's also called niche. That's the second move. Now, there are 4 kinds of niche. First is, so let's say A, B, C, D. So there are 4 kinds of move to. Anyone remembers? We did it in the last class. The last task in the last class was that from the book. There are 4 kinds of move to.
Yes.
Yeah. So
like criticism.
First is, there are 4 kinds of gaps.
Continuity or something like that.
Yeah. What did you say?
Question, answer.
Raising a question. That's also a gap. You said contradiction or the counterclaim. Counterclaim. That's what you meant. I got it. Right. You are. Counterclaim. Correct. That's another features of move to. Adding further knowledge or information. That's another. And what's the 4th? We got 3. There are 4 characteristics of mentioning gap in a research. Counterclaim, raising a question, adding further information, mentioning the missing part, the gap. That's also another features of move to. What's the 3rd move in introduction?
Purpose.
Perfect. Thank you. Purpose statement, which is this paper addresses, explores, reveals the way we occupy that gap. How will my paper fill up that gap I just mentioned in move to? So that's the introduction. 3 moves we have. And we also looked at a few examples of old to new progression in the last class slide. So today, that's part of general to specific text. So when I'm writing GS, just as a short form, I mean general to specific. And it looks like this. So I also used it maybe in the last class, this particular structure, which is kind of reverse pyramid structure if we talk about this part only. We are in the top part of it while we are writing introduction and literature review. Let me show you something also here, because I'll forget otherwise. Just giving you a heads up that soon we will be done with, soon as in we have a couple of weeks, so that we all remain on the correct track of time. Today we are doing this. Next class in this week, we will talk about this. And after these 2 classes, we will start writing our own introduction or literature review or combined. Sometimes, as I said, they are combined. The literature review, it's merged with introduction. When we talk about background, we mention previous research or our resource materials, summarize, paraphrase that we did in the earlier classes. So we will submit the first draft. I'll give you feedback, peer review, whatever. I'll let you know all about those things and deadlines. We have time. Just letting you know that once that's the direction we're moving towards, we will write our own introduction or literature review plus literature review. Okay? So let's get back. And we are here now. We try to synthesize resources. We will develop our own niche and how we will occupy that niche. Now, while doing that, what's this structure is called? You can have a look at it. It's just the reverse of the discussion section. When we will get to the discussion section, we will see the structure, the overall structure is opposite to discussion section when we talk about literature review and introduction. Why? It moves from G to S, general to specific. But this moves from specific to general. And that's how the paper, we end the paper, we conclude the paper. For instance, you started the context, background, then you are gradually moving to the topic, precisely what your innovation is. And then from that innovation, you are again doing a broader evaluation, how in other contexts that can be fit, whatever you are discovering or proposing, and ending with, again, a general evaluation or statement. So that's the whole paper will look like. We start with the general statement, we move to specific, and then the method and results are based on data totally. And in the discussion section, we go from specific to general, S to G. We'll see examples how that works. So today we'll see examples of general to specific text. And whenever we will read any passage or scholarly articles, we'll try to keep in our mind all the things we did earlier, whether transitions, whether old to new progression, or how demonstrative adjectives are maintaining flow, what kind of head nouns or subjects are used to maintain the flow. So before we begin, another thing that often I have seen, we do this error when we write a general to specific text. And that is causation versus correlation. We all know these 2 terms. And that's a very slippery slope. It's an easy slip. I'll show you a few examples here. You can see on the screen. So the first sentence, anyone who'd like to read it out loud? Please, someone volunteer.
In America, most deaths occur in hospitals. This shows how bad American healthcare is.
It's a wrong conclusion. Because these might be correlated, but not the cause. So there is a difference between correlation and cause. Often, when we write a specific general statement, and the next, the way we move to a conclusion, that's a slippery slope. While you reach a conclusion, whether actually that is connected, it is the cause of it, or it is just correlated. Let's have a look at few more examples. The next one, someone else?
Most traffic accidents occur within a few miles of home. This shows that short car rides are the most dangerous one.
You see, it's a G to S. I mean, these are two sentences. We'll see also 5, 10 more longer extended versions. Just giving examples that a general statement and a specific statement, and we are connecting it that might be correlated, but not the cause of the previous mentioned data. That's a wrong conclusion. The next one, someone else?
The overall depression rate among women is 12%, but among women who have had an abortion, it is 28%. This shows that getting an abortion makes women depressed.
This is specific to general, by the way. It talks about the data first, and then moves to a general statement. It's also, again, a wrong conclusion. The conclusion it is drawing. Because I have explained only the last part later. Because there are several other factors whenever we are talking about depression. It's not only the way it is connected. The depression rate among women is 12%, while abortion is 20%, so the connection is not the causation. They might be correlated. There might be correlations between these data or between these conclusions. But we cannot say this is the cause of it. So there's a little slippery squeeze.
Yeah, if we change the sentence to be among other causes, an abortion makes women depressed.
That's also,
Wrong conclusion.
that would be. Because there are many other factors I have explained in the later part. For instance, let me read that to you. Lots of death occur in hospital. That's about the former ones. Let's read this one. For instance, poverty, unstable home, rape, poor social support system, abusive relationship, depression that predated the abortion. So all these factors can lead to depression.
Yeah, but I'm
Not
saying-
only abortion to highlight
If I
as,
say alongside with other causes, having an abortion is
but that might not be applicable for all. We cannot actually generalize such a sensitive issue.
so. How did you generalize, let's say, property?
It depends on, again, the area we are talking about. Let's say you have done a research on certain area where they have poor social support system or they have high rate of rape cases. So all these factors are correlated to each other. Not actually one factor is the reason of another conclusion that we're talking about. You can talk about the correlations, definitely. But saying it is a cause is very dangerous. You know what I mean? That's not the cause of it.
So all of the elements here where you mentioned poverty and
Correlated.
it's correlated, still correlated.
Correlated. We cannot say this is the cause of it.
How can I make it cause?
Yeah, if your paper can prove it, it's a cause.
Which means only cause.
Yeah, only cause. And there should not be one cause. There will be a list of causes. If you want to talk about depression and abortion, there will be a list of causes.
So let's take another example. How can I relate? I mean, I try to understand
Road accidents, for example. So what's the cause of road accidents?
the cause of road accidents. Don't pay attention.
That could be one, could be like a
Yeah,
girl
and
was
other.
dead.
You know? We cannot say in a particular XYZ area or by mentioning particular name of races or color, we cannot say that they drive while being drunk, and that's why we cannot say that.
So can we have an example for cause? Another example, let's say. Something and cause.
Usually, cause is something that can be proven when there will be no argument against it. So let's say this causes cancer. And that's something that can be proven scientifically.
Okay, correlation is not necessary to be proven.
Oh, you have data. Correlation can be proven. Correlation is not an accusation. But when I say cause, that's an accusation. There's a difference. Yeah? So we can definitely talk about the data and the correlation. So we should keep it in mind whenever we are reaching to our conclusion, whether we are actually talking about correlation or causation. Just to be academically safe and correct. Make sense? So let's see today from general to specific text, even the last text that we discovered. Today we'll talk about definitions and extended definitions. Anything, whether it's an abstract concept or a scientific concept or a concept of pedagogy, education, or humanities. How we define terms, how we define our, whether it's technical term or a pedagogical term. How we define terms with the perspective of G to S, general to specific format. Okay? We'll start with one simple example, one single sentence. For instance, a solar cell is a device that, or which, converts the energy of sunlight into electric energy. So here we have three things in this one single sentence. We have a term, a solar cell. Then we have an auxiliary verb that works here as a principal verb, is. Device, this is called class, which is usually missing whenever we write a definition. When it's a longer extended definition, we define it without mentioning the class. For example, what is a church? Church where we go to pray. The class is missing here. It's a building, let's say. Don't say a thing, that's too generalized. What is this? This is a thing. No, it's a laser device that through which we highlight or mark. So that's how we define a class. Whenever we're defining any term, just focus on we are mentioning the class or not. That will help you develop your flow. Now, it's a single sentence that might not seem that it's very easy, but whenever we'll see longer definitions, we'll get to the point why I'm talking about extended definitions. And then definitely distinguishing detail, the actual predicate or object that defines the subject. Okay? Let's have a look at a few examples. If we go to per user and open this, task 6, as far as I remember, it's task 6. Perfect. Now here, in these 6 definitions, we'll try to find out what is defined.
What is the page number?
It's, if you go to per usual and click this lecture 6A, then type here page 80. It will repeat you the page. So our focus is, when we'll be reading the 6, the task is identify the term. What is defined? Number 2, it is not, no, number 2 point is not mentioned in this question in the book. Class. What is the class that is, of which the term is a part of? And number 3, just focus on the verbs they have used, and in 6 cases, we will see 6 different verbs that have been used to define the term. So I'm repeating, we'll do it in group. So form your own group and then discuss which one is the term you think defined in these 6 sentences. What's the class? And just focus on the verbs. Okay? And let's do it in groups. And there can be multiple terms even in one passage. If multiple terms are defined. Discuss together. You can write in per usual also if you want. Highlight and write. This is the term. This is the class.
We have to define the term, the class, and
And just have a look at the verbs. Write the verbs because you can easily identify the verbs. Just identify class and term.
Oh yeah.
Six of them are different, right?
Yeah.
Linguistically.
Is it device? Is it study? Is it?
Yes, it's study.
Okay, this is study.
Yes.
So the term is the circle. No, the term is the term is
Let me know once you're done.
So the other is this is the one
so this is
it's not.
Let's discuss. Are we done? Or we need more time?
So this is the plan, this is what
And if there is no class, also you can say that in this particular definition I didn't find it. Huh? Could be.
Yeah, there's a some technical.
Okay, this is,
Let's discuss together. Let's see. So let's talk about the first one. I hope it's quite easy. We have two definitions here. This group would like to share? Yes, please. Or any of you. I don't mind.
Okay, so I just think this a study of the geologic record of past seismic activities called paleoseismology. This is the first definition.
So paleoseismology is the term.
Yeah, paleoseismology is the term, and
What's the class?
study.
Cool. Yes. Yes. We all agree? Yeah. And what's the another term? Is there any other?
Yeah. Geography.
Geomorphic.
Geomorphic.
Is a study.
That's also a term. Geomorphic. Huh?
Yeah.
Let's talk about the second one. To which group? Should I go in a sequence or?
Yeah, go ahead.
It's another study.
I mean, the word must be there if there is a class. If there is no class, then that's a different argument. What's the term? First mention that. Let's.
We are still in the first sentence, right?
Oh, the first one is a study. Yes, geomorphic is a study.
Okay.
Right.
are we on the second now?
Yes. That's what I was.
So this one, so the term is the non-utility generator.
I don't agree.
That's your observation. Any other observation? Any of the groups?
He's talking about uncertainty.
Yeah,
What's the term? Let's fix that. What's the term you think that is defined in this?
all the time define
Uncertainty.
uncertainty.
Because uncertainty.
So they're defining uncertainty, the meaning of uncertainty.
No.
They are like,
They tell us what is uncertainty. There is no definition.
there is a comparison.
Yeah.
Okay. Any term that you find here which is defined in this sentence or passage?
Uncertainty is okay.
I think the thermal and hydro energy actually is a type of the non-utility generators.
Very good. So this is the term. Thermal and hydro are non-utility generators, and there are uncertainty associated with whatever the distinguished details. There is uncertainty associated with what? This is the class. Non-utility generators. For instance, if I rephrase this whole thing and make this a subject, thermal and hydro are non-utility generators,
Associated with that.
right? And then we have the distinguishing detail. I repeat,
Now makes sense.
thermal and hydro are non-utility generators. Make sense now?
Yeah.
Please?
I think the class of it is the energy, and it's the energy that obtained from the other types of non-utility generators. Because thermal and hydro are not generators, so the class is not generators.
So they are non-utility generators or what?
I mean, the class of it is energy, is not generators.
But there's
But what is defined? Thermal and hydro?
Yeah.
yeah, I agree with you.
Yeah, so you mean to say thermal and hydro?
I think the term is thermal and hydro, but the class is not the generators, but
Yeah.
the class is the energy.
Energy. Cool. Yeah. If you scientifically say so,
That's great.
yeah. Obtained from other non-utility generators. But here, when we use IE, we all know the meaning of IE. IE means example or that is. The exact meaning of IE is that is. So whenever they're using other types of non-utility generators are thermal and hydro. The sentence says so. linguistically. I don't know about the scientific knowledge, but the language says non-utility generators are, or non-utility generators, that is thermal and hydro.
Yeah, it's.
Or we can extend it like energy obtained from other type of non-utility generators, that is thermal and hydro. So energy is obtained from them, but the class, they are mentioning non-utility generators, that is thermal and hydro. That's the language.
Yeah, I guess it's.
Am I making sense?
I know.
Now, if it's scientifically flawed, then that's a different topic. Am I clear? Do I answer your? So whenever we write I dot E, so we are using that is. And before that, the noun, or we're using NAUG, non-utility generators, that is thermal and hydro. So that's how this definition is structured.
We were talking with this, so we infer for this sentence that it's a device. So device has to be the class.
Hmm?
Yeah, so we're utility generators, it's a device, right? So that could be also the, you can infer that it's a device.
So they could be defining non-utility generators here? That's what you mean?
To get, and the definition to get energy, to take energy.
Yeah. In that case, if we say energy, in that case you mean this is the term they're defining.
Yes.
And this is the example they're adding.
Yes.
That can be a perspective too. In that case, thermal and hydro is not the term. Let's say NUGS is the term. And then energy is the class. Devices. What we have.
It's not specified.
The word is not mentioned explicitly. Yeah. In that case, I would recommend use the word. Let's say non-utility generators like thermal and hydro are devices that, then you restructure the passage or definition. Then you add the class. If you want to make NUG as term. Making sense? Cool. Let's move to the next one, third. What do you think? This group? Would you like to answer? What's the term?
IQ.
They are defining IQ here. Flynn effect?
Yeah.
What you all think? Flynn effect? Okay, so Flynn effect is the term they're defining. And what's the class you think of Flynn effect? Is there any?
Average low scores. Test.
So some says raw score, some says rise. Any more answers? Let's discuss, that's fine. It's good to have a discussion.
So usually the class is there, like the word.
If it's not there, say that it's not there.
I don't think-
There could be, it's not there. It's not there according to you? Okay. Now, if I say Flynn effect is the rise, that has received much attention. So Flynn effect, this term, is actually about a rise in the IQ raw scores. Then rise is the class. Flynn effect is the rise in the IQ raw scores. So the definition of Flynn effect includes the rise of scores. Then rise is the class of this term.
Why the class is not effect? Because Flynn is the name of the person and effect is the class.
But this is the whole term. Flynn effect. So something has a Flynn effect. That means there has been a rise in that whatever score we are talking about. Sorry, you said something?
I just say like it's hard to identify the class.
It's hard to identify the class. That's what the task is. That's that. Otherwise, it's easy to define the term. The main argument is having confusions in class.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's, even I often have this confusion. What's the class? Or is there any or not? You know. For example, the next one. Oh, we have a class in the next one. The fourth. Carol, Jeff. Would you like to say which one is? Yeah, phytoremediation. Perfect. Awesome. Is the term. And what's the class?
Use.
Perfect. Direct use or use. We all agree? Nice. Let's move to the next. Procrastination. We all sometimes have done, or maybe often do right now even. So, refers to deliberately putting off one's intended actions. And we submit assignments in the 11th hour. We all did that. So, it's, what's the class here? We all got to know what's the term. Anyone? They said action. Anyone else? It's fine to have different opinions, that's okay. There is no one solid answer, huh? Now, if I say that procrastination is a habit or an attitude that refers to deliberately putting off one's intended actions, then actually I'm adding a class, according to me. Here, I don't see a class. Because we cannot separate actions from intended actions. That's actually connected phrase. If I add procrastination is a habit or is an attitude that refers to deliberately putting off, then I'm adding the class. And when we add the class, the sentence becomes easier. Why? When we'll get to longer or extended definitions, we'll talk about it. The sixth one is quite easy. Anyone would like to respond? Please?
Software
Yeah? Software watermarking.
is a better process in the class.
Process is the class. Perfect. Awesome. Thank you. Now, if we go to task 10, let me talk a little bit about this. Here, page 84, 84 as in the per user. And also, please have a look at this whiteboard. Now, the purpose of definition, something how you can define. There could be many ways. For instance, we'll now have a look at 4 different samples of the 4 different purposes. First of all, a definition may be used only to talk about components or examples or sometimes history or applications or executions. So what do I mean by these 4 things? We have 4 exactly referring to these 4 points definitions in task 10. First, so if you think what the task is, read this definition and match it with any 4 of these. The first definition is talking about application of microscope. The first definition is talking about the history of microscope. Or the first definition is talking about examples of how many kinds of microscopes are there. Or the first definition is talking about components in a microscope. The second one, pollution. We are defining pollution. The purpose of this definition goes to which one? 1, 2, 3, 4. Again, the third, fourth. So there are 4 definitions extended, like 2, 3, 4 sentences are used to define something. Now we'll find out or identify the purpose of that definition. Make sense? Let's go. Page, yeah. 84. You all can see the whiteboard? They also have written it in the book, by the way. This is where you would see the question that I just have written there. Components, applications, history, examples, or something else if you think. It's not like only these four could be. But for these four examples, actually these four options I have provided. Hopefully you'll get match.
So extended definition should not be used in scientific. Because
Should be.
usually in the class, people we practice extended definition.
No, let's say you want to define team success. Let's say you can define team success from the components basis, or from examples, or from history of team success, or dependent on your purpose and conclusion. Where do you want to reach? You can define anything. You want to define trust, you have to go through the four options. You want to define any characteristics of team success that you mentioned. You know what I mean? You can use any of these purposes to define it.
But if you think it's something you do without conscience, when you define it.
Then it would be full of, or it would have less, better flow. Let's put it in a euphemistic. When you know the purpose, then your flow will be really well written. When you know the purpose, that this is the example. I'm defining it based on history. I'm defining it.
So in my paper, should
Nothing is supposed
Yeah.
except
Yeah,
You see.
examples.
everything is
As a
But when we are really exploiting our skills and things, then even subconscious maintains the strategies. Like playing blind chess, you know how to play chess, you can play blind chess. People do play blind chess.
but in my paper, which one?
We'll discuss that later. It depends, you're free to choose any four, any one.
It does not depend on the field.
Depends on the conclusion you want to reach. Depends on the objective. Because that's why I call it purpose.
The conclusion of the paper or the conclusion of the project?
Of that chapter,
From project.
of that paragraph. And these are all connected, definitely. The conclusion of the paper and that particular definition won't be disconnected. There should be a correlation. We're done? It should be quite easy, the fourth and the four purpose. Let me know if you are ready to discuss together. You all are? Okay, let's discuss. The first one. Who'd like to respond? Anyone? Components or types. That's how the first one is defined. Let's have a look at the next. Anyone might have different opinion?
So everyone should be one type, or it can be like a mix of two?
Did you find any mix of two?
No, I'm not talking about the first one, just a general question. Can we have like...
Please share if you think that any definition has two mixtures.
Okay.
Yeah, do share, no worries.
Yeah, it might come. Okay.
Let's have a look at the second one. Pollution is a form of this, and then they're talking about gotcha. So what you think? We all agree?
I think this also could be a component.
Components?
The second one, because it's some common forms of pollution.
Okay.
So I think if it's examples, it should be involved like the date and the events and
Or, okay, gotcha what you mean. So if I say, let's say, no, you have a point, right? You are. Thank you for sharing that insight. Could be both. But my question is not to you only, just for a while. If you think, let's say pollution like sound pollution or air pollution or soil pollution, what did you say? Are the components or are the examples or the both? Both could be said.
It's an example.
also it's classifications.
Classifications.
Because components, it's like some physical things, but because pollution is not that physical.
Okay, so that's a nice point. Very good point. So if I say components / types won't give you the feeling of something is physical. That's the types of pollution. Then we can say, right? Yeah? That's a classification is also a good word for that. Thank you. Yeah, it could be. We all got it? So we see different kinds of purpose when we are defining something. It's not like we are just defining from one perspective. That means a definition or an extended definition could be written in various ways depending on the purpose. So when you are an author or researcher, when you're writing a paper, you must know your purpose. You can choose either way. You want to define something based on components, examples. Let's have a look at the next one. Perspective is a technique in art. So it's talking about art and perspective. What do you think the definition is based on? What's the purpose of it? Anyone? History? Yeah, it went to 1400s and it's talking about the history. You all agree? And the last one, definitely application, because that's the only one remaining. It's talking about acrylic plastic is a polymer, and it's talking about the application of acrylic plastic or something else you find. We all are on the same page? So whenever we're defining something, whether it's an abstract concept or a pedagogical term, or how to teach a term that it's not necessarily a term means a scientific term. It could be anything. Whatever we are defining, we can define even honesty based on components, types, classification, examples, history, applications. The word honesty, which is a very abstract now, that's what I mean. Anything can be defined based on any purpose, and the definition will change. Make sense? Now we'll have a different look. I'll just extend this discussion and continue it with this. Page number 88. Yes, we have time. If you go to page 88, here we have a definition. And the definition is designed based on a purpose. Now, my question to you is, you don't have to answer the questions that we have under this passage. Just try to identify the purpose of sentence 1 to 6. The sentence 1 talks about blah, blah, blah. Sentence 2, that's the purpose. Sentence 3, that's the purpose. So we'll try to look at the flow, how the ideas are generated from 1 to sentence 6. The purpose of sentence 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And let's discuss it together. I mean, do it in group. We read the 6 sentences? As discussed, if we're done. We're done discussing also. Where's mine? Please. So the first sentence is a definition of navigation, right?
Classes and buses.
And then it moves to the next. What's the next? The history of what?
Navigation.
Okay. And what about the third? I use the word etymology. We all know the word etymology. Source or root of a word. That is called etymology. From where the word came, originated from. So the third is we are reminded of this fact that the word navigation comes from Latin word for ship. That's called etymology of navigation that came from ship. The next one. Impact of what? I only wrote in the board impact.
Change.
Impact of what? The fourth sentence.
Also developments and change.
Sorry? Change, development, and
Usage application.
impact of application. Anyone? Else?
Like today's impact.
Sorry?
Today's impact.
Yeah, I mean the fourth sentence is talking about, I would say, impact of something. So the question is impact of what? Craft that can move in 3 dimensions.
Or impact of
The fourth talks about impact of aircraft that can move in 3 dimensions. The fifth, importance of what? GPS, right? Awesome, thank you. Importance of GPS or computer. Right? It talks about the importance. Today, both ships and aircraft known as GPS that can provide a continuous, immediate, and accurate report of position. And that's the purpose. We are using a that clause. And this that clause, this whole clause actually is defining why they're using or writing this particular sentence. This fifth sentence is about to define or is about to establish the importance of GPS, what help GPS provides. The sixth, how old technology is outdated. We also call it obsolescence or outdated. Now, so we got an idea how a definition, a general definition reaches to a specific conclusion, leading towards a particular purpose. So we call it general to specific text. It's not that we only use it for defining things, we could use it for other things as well. For instance, just for you to read this passage, do we have time? 5 minutes? Enough, yeah. Let's go to page 56. Task 1. We don't need to answer any question in this passage. I want you to read the passage, and before next class, you'll write a thesis statement of this passage that will preview the 5 moves we discussed about thesis statement. When you'll write the thesis statement, be sure you mention the genre. It previews the conclusion. You set up expectations in your thesis statement. You mention the strong claim that the writer used in his whole passage and purpose of this passage. So your thesis statement, 1, 2, 3 sentence, whatever, should have those 5 moves of thesis statement. Now we'll just read the passage. Let's go, read.
In which page, sorry?
It's task 1 on the same unit. Sorry about that. Let me take you to page
66.
page 5-6 in the book, and here it's page. It's a very interesting passage, by the way. Try to look how they maintain the flow, general to specific text. It's about TV reality show. This is the page. Are we done reading the passage? It's the end of time today's class. So before next class, just if you haven't read, finish reading and write 1 or 2 sentences that sums up this whole thing. You can submit here. And I have written the instruction clearly again here. Page 56, task 1. Read the passage and write a thesis statement that reflects the 5 moves we discussed in class for writing thesis statement. That's it. And once someone submits, you can also give feedback to the other person. Make sense? See you in the next class. And we have 2 videos, short ones, before next class. If possible, I'd be really glad. Thank you.
Thank you.
Pleasure.